We have an amazing opportunity. COVID-19 has exposed some weaknesses in our approach to economic development, and it has pointed us to an area, actually two areas that we really need to deepen our expertise and knowledge. That's the topic for today. Hello and welcome to DEF TV. At DEF TV, we're sharing knowledge and experiences on efforts to reduce poverty and create inclusive growth. Today's monologue it continues with the theme I started some time ago, talking about opportunities that COVID-19 is presenting us. So today I'm focusing on development professionals. It really has created an opportunity for us to redefine, refine some of the approaches that we have, but more importantly, to deepen some of the approaches that we take to economic development. So, in my view, there are three areas that I think COVID-19 has presented us with fantastic opportunity. As economic development professional, we need to expand our competence, or perhaps, so that's why that's the first opportunity, competence expansion. The other opportunity that I see is it's the opportunity to upskill as frontline economic development professionals. The lockdown has created challenges and areas in which we can begin to deepen our knowledge and expertise. So, as a matter of fact, it has introduced some other areas that we should really try and incorporate into economic development. So that's the upskilling. The third is the opportunity to refine, revise our strategies. If we're already in a project and we're doing some interventions and we're creating strategies, or we're beginning to design interventions and strategies, this lockdown has actually presented us with an opportunity to revise, to revisit some of the logic that we have put together. So three areas: expansion, competence expansion, upskilling, and revision. So these are the three areas that I think will be really useful for us as professionals these are the three opportunities that I see that COVID-19 has presented us as my apologies, having a bit of trouble with technology. So what I thought would be useful for us to discuss these opportunities one after the other. I had already planned a way to display this, but this is not working for me at the moment. So please forgive me as I go through this. Right. Okay, I hope you can see the screen. The opportunities then. As I said earlier, there are three opportunities that I think COVID-19 has presented us as economic development professionals. So the first being competence expansion. And what do I mean by competence expansion? I mean, so we are MSD, we are market system development professionals. There are things that we can do, well, there are things now that needs to be done. We really need to begin to incorporate into our design of MSD projects, and more importantly, the recovery that some of our partners will have to go through. So, MSD Plus, what I mean is, because of the devastation that COVID-19 has caused some of our partners, because of this devastation, some of them would most definitely require more support than ordinarily you would give in an MSD project. Beneficiaries especially, depending on where you work and depending on which sector you're operating in, it's important for us to support non-MSD, actually it shouldn't be non-MSD. Some of the humanitarian effort that we can combine with MSD is actually really complying to the MSD principles, because if you could think of it as seeding a particular change that you want to see in the market. So it's just that we really need to put a bit more effort into supporting our beneficiaries more than ordinarily we would in a project such as in an MSD project. Right, livelihood. Now, I struggle sometimes to really tell the difference between livelihood and MSD. I'm sure there are people out there that will tell me exactly what the differences are. But essentially, now MSD really need to think very seriously about recovery. So we currently, because of the devastation for our partners, if you're already in the middle of your intervention when all of this lockdown started, you then need to really focus on recovery. How do you help? How do you support the recovery of these partners? And it's an incredible opportunity for us to really become creative, to really think outside of the making market work for the poor box, and really create ideas, interventions, strategies that would not only help in recovery of our partners and our beneficiaries, but actually make them a bit more resilient. Resilience has become a lot more important, as Rob Hitchens said in one of his comments on this channel. Resilience in terms of known unknowns. I think market systems is very competent and we do very well in the way that is managed. The difficult area is the unknown. So we really need to dig into how we can create resilience, bearing in mind the unknown of a market. Recognition, that essentially just talks about recognizing the shock, the potential shock and stresses that may come to our partners or our beneficiaries. And this is particularly important when we're designing intervention in an MSD project. So I see this as an opportunity to expand our competence into humanitarian and into livelihood. Most of us are generally focused on commercial transactions and how this can really change, or the behavior of commercial actors, commercial private sector actors, the behavioral change that's required, and we incentivize this by commercial incentives. But it's now important for us to have an element of humanitarian and these 3 R's that we really need to try and focus on or include in our area of competence as economic development professionals. Now, the other one is upskilling. This is the second opportunity, as I said. We need to increase our skill as frontline economic development professionals. We really need to focus on how we can design interventions, specific interventions in all our sectors, how we can design those interventions to include recovery, to include resilience, to help our partners with the 3 R's. So I think that's an amazing opportunity. Where do we get the skills? Where do we get the skill to learn about recovery, resilience, and recognition? Most of humanitarian projects focus on these 3 R's. And when they talk in terms of livelihood, these are the areas that they really think about. So there's plenty of courses and plenty of materials out there that we can begin to incorporate into MSD, or at least into our skill set, So when we are designing an MSD project, we are able to include, or at least have some level of expression of these 3 R's. Facilitation. We very often take facilitation for granted. Everybody believes that they can do facilitation just without having to learn anything about this. I think the lockdown, the fact that we can't do very much aside from doing things on remote, gives us an opportunity to essentially really begin to deepen our understanding and our approach to facilitation. So, tools. There are so many tools out there that can really help us in the way we conduct ourselves when we are doing facilitation. Intervention model canvas. This I explained in some videos that I did some times ago, where I essentially showed how intervention model canvas can be used as a way to brainstorm with partners, with beneficiaries, with our colleagues. It's a fantastic way to communicate what we're trying to change and how we're trying to change it, and the impact on all of the stakeholders in an intervention. As our main effort is to change business models to be more inclusive for our partners and for our beneficiaries, it's then important for us to really have an idea of a really simple, logical way of developing these business models. And Alex Ozuwada's business model canvas, it's certainly a tool that I strongly believe should be incorporated into MSD designs when we are engaging with partners and creating new business models. Resource chains. We take this for granted. We very often do this at the beginning of an intervention and leave it at that, and leave it to the monitoring and evaluation team to deal with. But this is a crucial tool for us as implementers of intervention. It's important to combine this with the intervention model canvas, so you can see the logic as the logic progresses, and it's important for us to know that this is a living document, and very often it's not static. So we need to continuously revisit it and maybe change things and move things around in cooperation with the M&E team. And they are usually very accommodating of implementers, assessors, especially when it comes to refining and defining some of the indicators that we need to have in resource chains. So this is particularly important, and we really need to combine all of these tools, to use all of the tools that are out there that we can that can make us better economic development professionals. Negotiation. Negotiation is not an easy thing, especially when you are negotiating with large corporations. This is a set skill that we really need to try and learn. Negotiation is not common sense. It's not intuitive. There are strategies, that are approaches to take when you're negotiating, and it's important for us to include this in our arsenal. Persuasion. Persuasion is not the same thing as negotiation. Persuasion, because our effort is changing market actors' behavior. We want to change the way private sector companies behave, the way supporting functions behave, the way our beneficiaries behave. We have to learn to use tools that are taught under the persuasion techniques. There are plenty of tools out there. I may return to this in the future, but there are plenty of tools that we can use, we can learn to use as far as engaging with our partners in market systems. Data-driven decisions. Because of the pressure, sometimes because of the pressure of the donor, pressure of achieving results, in a very short time, we neglect the importance of data. And the data I'm talking about doesn't require massive field research. Just you as an intervention manager or as somebody that's leading interventions can actually go and ask questions, just gather intelligence, and the intelligence with specific objective of collating some data that will guide the next move, the decision you make about reorienting, redefining, or closing an intervention. So facilitation, I mean, there are a lot more on the facilitation skills, but these are the four that I thought would be really important for us to deepen our knowledge of, so we can use this time under lockdown productively and become better economic development professionals. Technology. I've traveled around Africa, most especially working with different projects. The one area that we're still weak on, perhaps because it can be deemed as expensive, or because we just lack openness, is technology. Software as a service. There's plenty of these out there that can not only help our beneficiaries, but can help us achieve our primary objective of changing behavior. Benchmarking tools, there's plenty of those out there that can really help us demonstrate to beneficiaries and partners how meeting the benchmarking, doing things according to the benchmark, can really be beneficial for them. And that in itself will help us in the way we deliver our interventions. So benchmarking tools, supporting functions, there are plenty of software as a service product out there that's being used by private sector actors that we can incorporate into our interventions, into our strategy, that will essentially be supporting functions that we've not thought about at all. We should not limit our tools to those that are currently in the market or in the space that we're working in. We really need to search, deepen our knowledge and awareness of the software as a service tools that are out there for us to use. E-commerce, because right now, the remoteness of services, the remoteness of the lockdown has led to considerable increase in e-commerce use. But this is not an area we push very much in economic development, especially market systems. There are some really innovative projects across the world that attempt to do this, but this might be donor pressure, it might be funding pressure, it might be time pressure. But for whatever the case is, we appear to be very shy when it comes to e-commerce. Channels. This is now about intervention delivery. How do we deliver intervention? What COVID-19 has done for us, it's now encouraged us to use the tools that already exist to do intervention, to implement intervention. We are now extending the utilization of these tools to breaking point. This is important for creativity, for innovation. So most of our discussions are online. We're using Zoom, Skype, and all of these products to communicate. To reach our beneficiaries, we now understand the importance of database and how we communicate with our beneficiaries through WhatsApp messages, text messages, emails sometimes, and some level of video conferencing that people can dial into, depending on the level of beneficiaries that we're dealing with. But the essential point I want to try and make here is that as part of our scale, it's important for us to learn about technology, to learn that there are so many technological advancement that we can incorporate into the work that we do to make them a lot more cost effective and a lot more impactful. We have an opportunity now. We can test ideas now. This is a time to do that, since we are all on lockdown and there's movement restrictions everywhere. The last bit that I thought, the last opportunity that I thought was really important is that if we are already in the middle of implementing a project or an intervention, we can revisit the intervention design. As a matter of fact, we have to revisit the intervention design because we are now using tools, we are now incorporating ideas into interventions that may not have been part of the original design. So it's an opportunity for us to first learn about all these technologies and all these new approaches, and then incorporate them into our design. So it's an opportunity for us. It's a renewed opportunity. You don't get this level of opportunity to redesign your intervention, especially in the way, whole-scale redesign in the way that the donor will be accepting of partners. We now need to look at our partners. You may have partners that's not as responsive. You have to really think about the sort of agreements that you have with your partner, given what has happened, the way to design these agreements, and the relevance of the agreement, the type of agreement that you have, and the model that you're trying to push the partner to implement. So these are areas that I think are necessary for us to really think about. And lockdown has given us an opportunity, time to do all of this. And even all of the stuff that we're doing now, we can use this time to experiment and make sure this happens. Outcome revision. What exactly is the change that you're trying to get in your intervention? It is possible that the COVID situation has really changed what needs to be your impact, or at least your outcome. So obviously, this needs to be discussed and communicated with the donor, and hopefully you will be allowed to pursue this. So these are the three opportunities that I see that COVID-19 has presented us as economic development professionals. So we now have to expand our competence level to include humanitarian and the 3 R's of the livelihood approach to supporting or to implementing economic development project. We really now have to think about how to upscale ourselves as professionals, things that we really need to try and develop our skills on, designing the intervention, using the tools that are available out there that we are not currently using. These are areas that we have time now to dip in. And some of these tools have been used for years, but for some reason we're shy of using these tools in economic development. Now, I keep saying economic development. What I mean is market system development projects, because the humanitarian and some of the livelihood projects are economic development as well. But this is really focusing on the market system development projects. That's the areas that's the projects that I've worked with, and these are the areas that I think we can improve as professionals working in market system development projects. And revision is the last point I was making, that we have a fantastic opportunity to revise our strategy, revise our design of intervention. What appears to be a whole lot more important now are some of the supporting functions that we had not considered when we're designing our intervention. It's important now to incorporate all of those new supporting functions and find ways for them to be a bit more inclusive. And generally, what that means is that we have an intervention that covers a whole lot more than we originally planned. So these are the areas that I thought. I mean, this has been going on for a bit now. So these are the opportunities that I see for economic development professionals. Ada wrote an article on LinkedIn where she explained the new entrance into international development in Africa. I'll put this in the description. It's certainly an article worth reading as economic development professionals. So thank you very much for watching. As always, please leave comments below and suggestions. These are the areas that I think we can improve on, and I'm sure you can think of a whole lot more areas that we can improve on as economic development professionals, or at least areas that COVID-19 has presented to us, or the lockdown that as a result of COVID-19 has presented us as economic development professionals. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next week.